back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, now we are chatting this morning with Chairman of the Tobago Division of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and of course, that is Mr. Curtis Williams. Good morning and welcome to you, Mr. Williams.
Good morning, Kandace.
All right, so we saw a change in our MPs. So after 10 years, we no longer have PNM representatives. We have moved to TPP representative. What are your views on how the elections turned out in Tobago?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks to the what do they call it, Prime Minister designate.
Yes.
The Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, and also thanks to the Chief Secretary and his party, which is the Tobago People Party, in terms of Tomo and to Mr. Thomas and Mr. Sampson for winning the 2 seats in Tobago. We just want to send that congratulations to them, and we are willing to work with them moving forward. We're willing to work with the new government, and I'm sure definitely we'll send our letters out to them to say thanks. What I see coming out from that campaign is I see the Tobago People Party had a campaign of issues, challenges that Tobagonians face, the average Tobagonian face on a daily basis. The truth of the fact is that the issues were coming out so clear that I and all was amazed at some of the issues that we face here in Tobago. As compared to the PNM campaign, was more history, a lot of history and rhetorics and picons, who belly big and those kind of things. We didn't see we didn't see issues coming up from the PNM camp, things that they should have done within the last 9 to 10 years. And that tells us, that story, because I had I was watching the two parties as the campaign going along. And there were some areas that I saw where the Chief Secretary was delivering as a political leader of the party, and I was really impressed with some of the issues, because they are issues that affected us as business in Tobago and Tobagonians.
Now, and as you touched on that, there was one thing, because I spoke with Mr. Anson as the political leader of the Tobago Council, the PNM, just last week, and I raised the matter of the foreign direct investment situation where we have that land license tenure, and of course the business community has been very, very vocal over many, many years about the need to remove that or repeal that or do something with that to make it easier. And he said that such issues are not quite as important in the parliament side of things, sorting out, that all that needs to happen is to make the process shorter, not necessarily change it.
No, well, I mean, again, you understand, these things to him didn't look important, but to us in the business community, they are important. And that's why I said that the focus, they need that, their whole strategy was just wrong. You have to understand that within 9 years, there are certain things that we have been lobbying for, the Tobagonians. The average man on the ground, and we're not talking about the bigger guys, the average man on the ground, simple things that they can get done, tongue and country. Kandace, I remember doing an application for tongue and country for land development. It took me nearly 3 years. And not only that, Kandace, I have to go to Trinidad. And I have to be back and forth for 3 years, back and forth in Trinidad just to get a simple land development process done.
Well, Mr. Dennis said that perhaps you guys were doing something wrong because it should be. This is what he said, because I posed these questions to him, and he said that no, the process is actually easier, and perhaps that it was not being done the way it should be done.
Kandace, no, I'm telling you, I went through it myself, and we see with tongue and country planning some of the issues. Let's talk about register of birth and death. You see now the Registrar General, they're fighting there, and then the process just get delayed. So you're having probably a 5-day or even much more delay in getting the registration of birth and death. And again, there are some more issues that we could talk about. And you mentioned about the land license. Why we can't quicken that process? So let THA handle the entire process of the processing of the land, and then it will be faster because it's done in one space. Not have to go to Trinidad to go to the Ministry of Finance and sit there for a while. And there were some more issues that he spoke about, and these are touching things that Tobagonians And as you mentioned, the disrespect of Tobagonians, because we are people, we are sensible people, we are bright people. I don't know why someone felt that we can't do things in Tobago, that we are so behind or backward. Kandace, come on. Look at simple thing like we were talking about the flights coming to Tobago and extended time, especially when it's busy, so that we can get flights leaving. I came in from, I was traveling to the US and I came in about nearly 9:30. And Kandace, I couldn't get across.
Yeah.
It meant now I have to fork out money to go at a hotel or sleep in the airport. Fortunately, I had funds that I could have go to a hotel. But if I didn't have that funds, and the average Tobagonian don't have that fund, that meant that I have to sleep in the airport in that cold air condition on my bags. That's unfair. Trinidad and Tobago is still one country. I don't know why somebody's trying to tell us that everything I need in Tobago, I have to go to Trinidad to get the authorization from. I think high time, we passed that time. So that politics of speaking 10, 15 years ago, gone. We're now in the present, we're now dealing with a present time situation that folks don't have the time to waste to sit down there. We want the thing now, and we want it fixed now.
So do you think now with this change in government that all of these issues and all the other ones that we have not even mentioned, would they be addressed?
Well, the thing now is that the two representatives of Tobago now will have a conversation. They will now able to go down to the parliament and negotiate with the central government. I mean, I worked with the UNC when they were in power last time, and Kandace, the relationship was really, really, really fantastic. The Tobago division, we had the chamber. I remember we sitting with the finance minister at Cocoa Reef Hotel for an entire day, like a little retreat, and we going through the budget and dealing with issues that were affecting Tobago at that time. So I could fairly say that the UNC will give Tobago the air. I know the UNC will give us the air, and we will have a cordial relationship with it. So there's no bickering and fighting anymore. That day is for that over. We're going to have conversation. We're going to have phone calls between the two players, and I'm sure they will have meaningful conversation. Tobago, we might get all that we so desire, but we will start to get something. If we're looking at the autonomy bill, we may get some aspects of it, or we may get the entire thing. If we're looking at the percentage increase in the budget, of course, we may get a percentage increase, whether it's 1%, 2%, but we will get something. And I know the media review is coming up sometime, I think it's about June.
Yes.
And I could guarantee you, Kandace, we will get something going forward.
All right. And what do you think that the focus should be for this new government in terms of Tobago? What would the business community like to be prioritized for Tobago?
Well, I like the offset that the UNC didn't put anyone here in Tobago to contest the election. So most likely it would be the THA putting together a package and send down through the two MPs to the government. And I like that approach. That's a good approach. And I know the business community will be more than interested and welcome to be part of that process, putting forward some of the recommendation, things that affects us business-wise, not only the chamber members, but the business community in Tobago to have a faster and smoother relationship in doing business in Tobago.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, do you think that they should also move to address certain things like the Caribbean Airlines and so on? How do you see that changing? Because I know back when the PP government was with Kandace was in play, they increased flights to Tobago. But of course, that was decreased later on. But, you know, how do you see that working?
But Kandace, let's look at it for real. And I think Tobagonians will agree with me on this point. In all those state enterprises that have Trinidad and Tobago, I think a representative of Tobago should be on their board. I just think so. Whether it's one or two, a representative of the Tobagonians, or one Tobagonian at least on their board. Let's say T&Tech. We should have a representative from Tobago in T&Tech, WASA, TSTT, Caribbean Airlines. Why we don't have one or two? Airport Authority. Why we don't have one or two representatives? This is Trinidad and Tobago. The name carry Trinidad, T&T. And we're supposed to have a representative of Tobago on all these state enterprises that makes decisions that affects Tobago. Because a Trinidadian sitting in Trinidad will not feel the pressure or the pain that we have to traverse through on a daily basis. So I think it's important. And the first conversation, I think the THA going down, speaking with the central government, is that all these state enterprises that interact or have interface with Tobago, I think there ought to be a representative or two from Tobago on these boards.
The ones that affect us directly.
That's correct.
And then should those representatives come from just the regular public, or should it be recommended by the THE?
Well, I think it may be better to have a cross-section. So there may be some that may be recommended by the TH, that coming from the THE or from the regular public. It could be a cross-section. But the whole idea is that a Tobago Union sitting on TSTT board will understand what's happening when I'm talking on my phone from Crum Point trying to get to even Scarborough, and I have to dial 10 times because I only have drop call, drop call, drop call. A person sitting on Airport Authority board will understand the pains that we have to sit in the airport waiting on flights and all of that. Someone sitting on Caribbean airline will understand that, hey, this thing is not only for profit. There's a service aspect of the air bridge that bringing the people from Tobago to Trinidad. Can you just imagine if the plane was overnight in Tobago and fly from Tobago, first flight from Tobago to Trinidad, what would happen?
It would mean that you will meet your 8 o'clock appointment.
That's correct. And that's correct. And I think for some reason, even TNTech, why we can't have a representative of Tobago sitting on TNTech board, one or two, and all these other state enterprises that I see that have saying things, because some of them, they talk about even Export TT and all the other big state enterprises that talks about things happening in Trinidad and Trinidad taking full advantage of it. But because there's no Tobago rep, so that person could bring the information back to the THE or bring it back to Tobago itself and tell them, hey, when you're doing your caravan, you need to put one in Tobago. So you have 15 in Trinidad, but none in Tobago. Oh no, Tobago probably have nobody and willing to access those funding. Who tell you that? We are willing, but sometimes we just don't know. So I think it's important that in all these state enterprises, when the central government do appoint them, and I expect the chief to say something about that we have a representative of the wider public Tobago or even of the THA appoint someone to sit on these boards to seek the interests of the Tobagonians.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we had the Sandals issue popping up just less than a month ago. And how do you see that now moving forward? Do you see the conversations continuing with the new government going forward?
Well, I see it even better now because it seemed like the THA would have to lead the conversation. And the THA and the people, and Kandace, we're talking about all the stakeholders, and I see that being a stronger. So we could put a package together now, and we could continue the conversation with Sandals. I know, and then the central government will they probably will send a rep, because certain things may affect the central government in that instance. So they may send a rep, might be the Prime Minister, might be the Minister of Tourism, and we will have a better conversation going forward, because this is what the people will want. And not something that, again, as I said, something in Trinidad and you just throw it across into Tobago and say, take that. And Kandace, we have enough take that already now. It's time for us to be inclusive and include the people in Tobago, because we are human beings. We are living here. We are living and working people. And we could say a part in the conversation.
Mm-hmm. And then, are you worried because there was the last time Kandace Bisasa was Prime Minister, there were issues of, corruption and so on coming up. There were issues where there were questions raised with the way how governance was going forth. Do you think that that's something that the public has to worry about in the next 5 years?
Well, we have two good guys, two strong guys, Mr. Sampson and Mr. Thomas, going down there, and they were able to see the transparency and able to report back to us, the Tobagonians, as to what transpired and how it's been transpired. I think it will be a much clearer mission going forward for these guys to come and say, hey guys, this is what's happening down in this space and so forth. I don't see corruption being of an issue. The government is going to do things in a particular manner, and these guys will be the scrutiny, they will be in Parliament, and they will be able to see certain things that we normal average man don't have access to. And I'm comfortable. I'm feeling very, very comfortable. I know the two gentlemen, Mr. Sampson, I know him quite well, and Mr. Thomas, and I know these guys, they may be newbies, but trust me, the energy those guys have, I don't even have that energy to go down there and fight for Tobago. And I'm happy about that.
Now, one of the things that I know the business community was very adamant about the need for us to have that tourism standing committee again, because of course that is the base of our economy here in Tobago, and we didn't have that for the last 10 or so years. Do you think that that would return to the space?
Well, it's something that we mentioned, and I think the new hotel association is a new president, and something that he echoes. And I mean, once we come together as stakeholders and we can make that utterances to the THA, and we see how that information could be transcend down to the central government to say, hey, we can't work in isolation anymore. We are all players in the game. Let's sit around the table and plan tourism as an industry. This is not a pickup side. This is not a way, doing gardening and doing a little thing on the side. No. This is real business. This is an industry. Let's grow the industry properly. So we have to have all the stakeholders. We build a terminal building and we have no workers for the building. Now we're looking for workers. Airport authority all over the place looking for workers. And what about all the technical and all the engineering aspect of that airport? We should have been having that training going on while the airport is being built. No, you build the building now and the building is there, beautiful, no workers. So Tobagonians are supposed to be taking advantage. Now we hear through the grapevine that they're going to bring a whole heap set of workers from Trinidad because why? Because Tobagonians not qualified to do the job. Hey, come on, we have MIC and other institutions here that we can train young Tobagonians, technicians, electricians, AC guys. I mean, it's a beautiful airport. Why we can train our people in the meantime? They would take probably, let me say, 18 months of training, maybe to 2 years. But why we thinking about the airport? We should be thinking, airport authority should be thinking, let's see how we could partner with the teacher to get a training program going on so that we could get young men and women to be part of that. So what would happen? So we're having a brand new airport, a new terminal building in the space, and no one from Tobago to really operate it. So we had to be imported workers. And those are the things we're talking about, Kandace. So somebody was not forward thinking. And all the pick on in and think about what Tobago needs. So tourism industry is a holistic thing. And you had to think about all the things when folks come to the island, what they do. So you have to think about your spaces, the plants and the type of plants we have on the island presently, and the plants going forward. And then we had to think about logistics, transportation. We had to think about healthcare for tourists. If they get sick, as the case may be, how do we handle that? Do we have the competent agencies on board to treat with the family, how to get them back? And Kandace is all these things, because remember, Tobago is a space that they have the remote areas. They have Charleville and all this, how we could get them to the nearest health facility. Right. Who are the people, who are the agencies who will be taking care of them? Kandace, even like we bring guests here, and we have them entertaining them. We have to think about the forts and all the historical sites, so we could refurbish this to make this thing package into a real tourism industry.
And that, of course, that requires the investment and the money.
That's correct. And we're thinking about the direct foreign investment. I mean, Kandace, just before I came on set, my counterparts phoned me from Trinidad and said there are investors in Trinidad willing to come to Tobago from the US and other parts. And I just tell her, okay, let's see how we could get them on. Maybe not this time, but I will have the conversation with them and tell them to make a plan and come and have a chat with us. Because it's important that we have the direct investment. And then, the two things they're interested in, Kandace, tourism and agriculture. Look at that. So I think the space is opening up. And I think we in Tobago just have to prepare ourselves, get ourselves in some state of readiness for that development that come in.
And then from the business community perspective, and just speaking more on a national basis, what do you guys require? What do you guys need to see prioritized to start, making things better? Because, our economy is struggling quite a bit right now, not just in Tobago, but also in Trinidad. So what are some of those priority things that you would like this new government to implement to start to have some positive changes?
Well, it was mentioned, the autonomy bill, and giving Tobago the sense of doing something, determine some things. Simple things like, as I mentioned to someone yesterday in Trinidad, that, if you're going to develop some land in a REMA, you go to the city and you get approval to do it. And even making laws, little simple traffic laws, you could do that in a REMA through the city and the city police and all that. It's those simple things that we don't even have access here in Tobago. And then we're looking now that we're talking about the funding now, because that's a big thing. We know the THA is a problem. We know there are service providers and suppliers. I ain't reached contractors yet. I ain't talking about them old money. I'm talking about present day service providers and suppliers that struggling to get payments of outstanding bills going by. We have members and other members of the public who come to us and telling us, oh God, help us see what. Some of them don't want to talk, I don't know why, but I could talk on behalf of them, my background, that yes, they do business with the THA and they're not getting paid on time and they have outstanding bills, but the THA have an issue with cash. And we are asking the central government realize what's happening in this space with the THA and give them the relevant funding to assist in that cash flow that we're talking about. Even up to the oil spill, we have contractors who haven't been paid as yet. Some get some funding and some have outstanding funding. So simple things like this, Kandace, I think the central government will look at, and I have faith. I have faith in that new central government that they will give Tobago something.
Mm-hmm. Now, I remember one of the things that Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar was focusing on just before she left office was establishing growth poles around the country. And there was one that was supposed to be established in Tobago, particularly Crown Point area and so on. Is this something that you think should be revisited and be improved or whatever the case may be?
Definitely. And and again, as I said, the THA now is preparing the fiscal package, and I think some of those ideas are great that we should put into the fiscal package because they're going to send that down to the central government, and that would be giving the central government an idea of some of the things that the Tobagonians want. And I see now the THA is doing a bit of consultation, putting together stakeholders to speak to things within that fiscal package. And I applaud the Secretary for Finance for that step. That's a bold step. So you get it to be inclusive. So the package that is going to be presented in Tobago will not just be just what the Tobago Assembly wants. It will be what the people, and I mean, she's going from Lent, she's going from Sharville to Crown Point, all the people, all the village council, all the different associations getting their information in. So when she deliver that package come in, I think it's in June, it will be Tobago. It will not be the THA. This will be Tobago wants for the THA. And that's sending that down to the central government. And I think that's a good move. I applaud that effort. It's a great move that we have some say in what happens in this space.
And how do you see a relationship between the Chief Secretary and the Prime Minister? Because, under Chief Secretary of London, there were complaints. But now we have Father August in there. What do you think that relationship is going to be like?
I see they're having a very good relationship. I think since the day night of election, I think he picked up the phone and gave her a ring and tell her congratulations and because Kandace, that's how it have to be, That's how it have to be. The Chief Sec and the central government and the Prime Minister have to be talking, We can't, I think and I'm talking out of politics, but I think they ought to have a conversation. The country is still Trinidad and Tobago. And I think if we have such a nice relationship, and we know Prime Minister, Madam Prime Minister, these are the things that affected us. I know things is hard in Trinidad. Yes, we know they're going to reach probably an empty treasury or whatever the case may be. Things will be tough, but here what happened, you could put aside something for Tobago. Out of the 10, we could do it 2. We mightn't get the full 10, but at least if we could get 2 and Trinidad, okay, you're going to get 8 because you have so much to deal with. Fine, we can live with that, but at least we're getting something a little more than what we were getting before. Because what we were getting before, we could not take care of some of the expenses that we inherit. And the inheriting expenses is what the THA have struggles with, because you're dealing with all these millions of dollars you inherit as expenses from their previous administration.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Williams, for being on with us and giving us a perspective as to what the business community is hoping for as we usher in this new government over the next 5 years.
And thank you, and I want to say thanks to the Tobago Updates for giving us the opportunity. And we look forward, the Chamber will be a lot vocal now going forward in education and letting Tobago understand what's happening in the space of business and otherwise. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, viewers, that's how we're going to wrap the show this morning. I want to thank you so much for being on with us. It was a pleasure as usual, but we would see you again tomorrow. So bye for now.